There are four major shifts happening in the points and mile space right now that could directly impact how you travel in 2026. If you haven't reviewed your old point strategy, you could be leaving some value on the table. My name is Michael, and for the last year, I've been tracking the top award travel news in my weekly newsletter, including the increase in vanishing sweet spots and every major loyalty program change that has occurred. And let me tell you, 2025 has served some big questions like where are all the sweet spots going? Are airline miles making a comeback? And is this all still worth it? So let's start with shift number one. Sweet spots are becoming less sweet. Now, I think the cause of this is because everyone is getting smarter. Not only are we as consumers getting smarter with all of the education and the tools that are out there now, but I believe airlines and loyalty programs are getting smarter as well. This year, as well as every year, has shown a lot of sweet spot redemptions that we love to utilize and maybe even a little bit exploit. They're becoming harder to book. Airlines are increasingly limiting award availability that it releases, and competition is higher than ever. Just some examples of this is Turkish Airlines devaluing their Hawaii sweet spot. Emirates has become less appetizing with the combination of Emirates no longer letting you book first class flights directly unless you have status with them. And then, of course, banks devaluating their transfer ratio, so it now costs more points to book Emirates business class. But then there's also Flying Blue, who's hiding more of their best award space for status holders, and the list goes on. Now, this isn't necessarily news by any means. Devaluations have always been a constant within the award travel space, but damn, has this been a pretty ruthless year. But it's not all doom and gloom here. In fact, I just finished helping a client save $12,000 on a trip to Europe for her family of 5 for this coming summer. So the deals are still out there. They're just lurking a little bit more. And so here are some tactics for you to adopt to hedge against this. I'd focus on just whichever one of these resonate with you in your situation, which of course can change over time. I've got 4 of them for you. One is to diversify your points. If you don't have a lot of specific travel plans or goals, you're just kind of going with the flow wherever the deals are, or maybe you don't know exactly how to best use your points and which currency is the best for which type of flight, then diversifying your points can be a great strategy. The key is to have relatively big balances with each currency that you choose to hold. Now, how many points is a big amount of points? I'd say a safe goal to go for if you want to overshoot, it would be about 100,000 points per person one way for business class, and then 40,000 points per economy each direction. With that number of points, you should be able to book a business class cabin to most places in the world, except maybe to some Asian or African destinations on certain airlines like Singapore, for example. And when you have this amount of points, the main problem you'll be facing is going to be award availability, which if you are interested in learning in detail how I personally search for this award availability for myself and for clients, I'm developing a detailed course for you as we speak on this topic. If you want details about when that's released, make sure to sign up for the waitlist down in the link in the description. Now, the second tactic is the direct opposite of this, and that's to get specific. Instead, you can take a more targeted approach. If you have shorter term travel goals, getting specific can be helpful. For example, if you're trying to get to Africa, you can do some research to figure out what points will get you there at the best rate or at the specific cabins that you want to fly. In this case, chase points can be a pretty useful currency to accrue because United tends to have some pretty good prices to get to Africa, especially compared to other partners. And so this method of being specific requires some more research on the front end and knowledge on how to actually use your points in the best way. But even this does require some flexibility, because if you narrow it down to just a handful of programs you really want to use and fly, then that in turn may also limit your availability. And then there's always the risk of a sweet spot getting devalued while you're in the middle of this strategy of accruing points. So during your research phase, make sure to also identify some backup options as well. And then tactic number 3 might be a hot take, and I fully understand that it just may not jive with all of y'all. But number 3 is to start settling. Settling for good enough is so liberating, y'all. And by this, I mean whenever you're searching for an award flight for whatever dates you need to fly on, learn to identify and evaluate all your different flight options and pick the best one that's there at the most reasonable price. Whether it be a lesser business class cabin than you were wanting, a premium economy flight, or dare I say an economy flight, this becomes more necessary if your travel is not very flexible in terms of the dates and where you're trying to go. So you'll want to look into settling for the solid redemptions and maybe not so much the outstanding redemptions that people tend to talk about on social media. And this can kind of lend itself to tactic number 4, which is to burn, baby, burn. So burn through your points as soon as you can. I know travel takes a lot of planning and preparation, and it's scary and sad to see your points balances dwindle. I struggle with this as well, but remember, if you redeem your points now, you're essentially guaranteed a better value compared to redeeming them in the future because of all the devaluations that will eventually come. And by the way, if you like the way I explain and talk about points and miles in this way, I do share tips like these in the Best Points and Miles weekly newsletter out there. You can sign up for that in the link in the description and pinned comment. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Earning and redeeming points and miles is all we talk about here. So getting back to our big shifts, shift number 2 is that airlines are making a comeback. While I wouldn't go so far as to say they're better than any flexible points currencies like American Express or Chase, they have become significantly more valuable this year, and they just might be worth reconsidering, especially if you're using a targeted strategy like I mentioned earlier. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I've never loved airline-specific miles due to the lack of flexibility. Why earn United miles when you can earn Chase Ultimate Rewards instead? That calculation potentially may have shifted, because the big shift that's occurring is that airlines are increasingly reserving their best prices and award availability for their card holders and those with status with that airline. We've seen Flying Blue, Delta, and United all implementing this strategy, offering bigger discounts and opening up more valuable award seats when other sweet spots are taking on other partners. I'm personally hoping that American and Alaska Airlines do not follow suit, but time will truly tell. So what does this mean for you? I say it's still a case-by-case situation here. If you frequently fly on one of these airlines or plan to really do so for one reason, a co-branded credit card has become an easier recommendation to make. For me personally, it's a trend that I'm tracking, but at this moment, I don't have any plans to open up a United or Delta co-branded card, and I'm personally sticking with flexible currencies. So moving on to shift number 3, and that is Bilt is positioned to become a major power in the points and miles world. They've already been incredibly valuable, don't get me wrong. They arguably have the most valuable points currency right now with a 1-to-1 transfer to Japan Airlines, Alaska, Emirates, United, Hyatt, and many more. But their partnership with Rakuten allows even more people to earn more points faster, although you do need to watch out because you'll need a higher status with Bilt in order to continue getting this full benefit after the May 15th payout date with Rakuten. But the real game changer coming in 2026 is the upcoming announcement detailing how you can earn Bilt points on your mortgages. This will potentially make the currency truly ubiquitous and universal. And this is all happening for Bilt with good timing because major banks are making a lot of less than popular changes, such as Chase tightening its grip with new restrictions on credit card applications, and also travel portal changes with mixed reviews as well, while Amex is actively devaluing their currency as evident with their recent announcement that transfers to Cathay Pacific will drop to a less favorable 5-to-4 ratio in March. So I'm thinking if Bilt's upcoming new suite of credit cards coming in 2026 offers sign-up bonuses with competitive perks and a decent annual fee, then all of this will firmly plant Bilt as a powerhouse, joining the points and miles Mount Rushmore alongside Amex, Citi, Capital One, and Chase. So what should you do about all this news? Well, I would take a look at your strategy, especially as the news keeps coming out. Keep your eyes open and figure out how earning Bilt points might make sense for you and see all the different ways that you might be able to. For me personally, I'm currently a renter, so I've always been steadily earning Bilt points. I just may have to decide if I want to go a little bit harder and try to earn some status through Bilt. Now, our final shift, honestly, it may not be so major, but it's something I'm paying attention to this year. And that fourth thing is, what is Southwest going to do next? It's either going to be exciting or scary. On one hand, I'm afraid of them ruining their companion pass, which has been the keystone of my domestic flight strategy. And if you don't know what a companion pass is, it's their buy one, get one flight just for the price of taxes, which is $11 round trip. If you want to learn more, I'll have a video linked up above somewhere. But on the other hand, Southwest has added several international partners, including Iceland Air, China Airlines, EVA Air, Condor, and Philippine Airlines. Right now, the benefits of this partnership is mainly behind the scenes interline perks like being able to check your bags through to your final destination on a single itinerary whenever you book it via a partner airline. But right now, there's still no ability to earn or redeem rapid rewards points on flights operated by these airlines. but I am curious to see when this might change, what it will look like, and how that will affect the brand as a whole. And of course, most importantly, how that may affect my companion pass. Now, for your strategy, of course, I wouldn't change anything quite yet. This is all pure speculation, but let me know in the comments what your points and miles strategy consists of in 2026. How is it changing, and what are your concerns? And now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and the newsletter while you're at it. YouTube thinks you'll like either of these videos next. I'll see you in the next one.